Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Reverend Shirley, for being with us today, too. We're going to we'll do our spiritual dialogue here in just a little bit. After we talk a little bit about what all this fear thing is all about, what this fear talk. You know, it's really, I know, kind of like not a Unity thing to bring our fear into our meditation, right? It's more of a Buddhist thing, actually. It's a way for us to just kind of like be in touch with all the parts of us, and also to learn and to grow. So tonight, I've called this the gift of fear, because fear has purpose, and it has value, and it can be turned into a practice of recognition of ourselves and in ourselves. And so fear is actually a universal feeling that we share with all living beings. It's an essential response to our environment or to danger that enables us to become instantly alert and to act quickly to protect ourselves. We know that. That's what it's meant to be, and that's what it is for. But fearful experiences that we've had in the past have taught us to be aware, to be on guard, to have the adrenaline rush, have stress, the stress metabolism and the stress hormones and all of that start to act out. And in our environment where we are not necessarily physically at risk, instead, the stress of daily living and the emotional stressors and unhealed past experiences that get triggered in real life circumstances create the same kind of fear responses in our bodies and start to degrade and sort of tear up our bodies a little bit when we have a great deal of stress going on, and when we hold a lot of fear or find ourselves provoked into alarm, into stress, into worry, into concern, into fear. And so fearful experiences we've had in the past will emerge in real time and will be triggered by conditions as a way to protect us, but don't really have value very often. More often, they sort of, they take us out of our experience and have us react in fearful ways. Yet, the gift of fear is part of our defense system, and it has good purpose. But tonight, I want to also show you how the gift of fear can be used as a practice to dissolve away and to open to a new sense of healing, wholeness, and freedom. All fear that we have is really from the past. It doesn't predict the future, but it warns us when conditions start to look like something we've experienced before, where we've gotten hurt or wounded, and our fear will arise. Tara Brach, in the book Radical Acceptance that we're basing our series on, she says that fear is the anticipation of future pain. So it's almost like we hunker down, we hold ourselves tight, we protect ourselves, right? We wince, we pull back, we contract. Our hearts will contract. Our minds even become really focused. I would say contraction in a way, because we become very focused, tunnel vision sometimes when we have fear. Chogyam Trungpa said, "We become a bundle of tense muscles defending our existence." Yeah, that's no way to live. But it is what fear will do if we live in a lot of fear, or if we are often triggered into fearful thinking or fearful actions. Gerald Jampolsky, a spiritual teacher and author, said, when we think we've been hurt by someone in the past, and we build up defenses to protect ourselves from being hurt in the future. In other words, we protect ourselves and we don't let that happen again, right? So the fearful past causes a fearful future, he says. And the past and future then become one. And really what happens is we live in a constant state of agitation, of alarm, of alert, of being on guard, of being defended, of not being able to be spontaneous or free or innocent or childlike, joyful. We're shut down from all of the experiences if we find ourselves triggered over and over in our lives. He says we can't love when we feel fear. When we release, however, the fearful past and forgive, let go, find freedom, we'll experience total love and oneness with all. So that's the gift, that's the possibility. But fear is the thing, not the symptom that we need to avoid, but rather the energy and the pattern that we can use. Keep up with me here. We're going to go somewhere with this. Tara Brach says the trance of fear is sustained by our strategies to avoid feeling fear. That's a lot of things. We spend a lot of time trying not to feel fear. We learn to lie. If we don't want to feel fear, we lie and say everything's okay, or it's all right, or it doesn't bother me, or that's okay. That's not going to affect me. We lash out, we blame, we push something away. So instead of feeling fear, we feel angry. And anger then becomes the substitute for fear. But it's almost always linked to a fearful state. It makes us feel powerful for a moment, but it also alienates us and keeps us separated from one another. Sometimes, not to feel fear, we try harder to be good. If we think we're not good enough, if we think we're inadequate or found wanting or unworthy, we just try a little harder, right? I didn't give it all I had. I could try a little harder, a little longer. Sometimes when we're in fear, we freeze. In certain patterns in our lives, we've learned to just stop, lay low, don't say anything, don't make a move, don't draw attention, don't speak up, don't talk back, just wait. Just wait for the threat to be over. Sometimes we just go numb. That's our way not to feel fear. We just don't feel anything at all. All of these are coping skills and defense mechanisms that may have worked for us or we believed worked for us growing up perhaps, but they are no way to live our lives. There's no way for us to be constantly at the mercy of fleeting sense of fear. We see everything in reference to our unworthiness or inadequacy, our unlovableness. Again, no way for us to live. But many of us will find ourselves in these situations from time to time, triggers from our past, usually unhealed experiences that we still are operating out of. Tara Brach was working with a client once, and she helped her to sit with her fear and to find a way to befriend it. So first, she asked her to breathe and feel where the fear was in her body. The tightness in her throat and her heart pounding loudly, she said. So she asks, what does the fear want or need from you? And Martha said, it wants to know if it's okay to be here. So Tara asks, so, is it okay that the fear is here right now? Martha nodded. Tara suggested she communicate that to her fear. Tell her fear, it's okay for you to be here. Then after breathing and relaxing her shoulders, she said, you know, as soon as I sent the message saying, I accept you, the fear kind of deflated a little bit, kind of like a balloon. Tara said, ask the fear what it's afraid of. Martha said, that I don't deserve my husband, that he's too good for me. Tara said, remember, that's a thought, not the truth. Accepting her husband's love, Martha experienced the beginning, the first step in beginning to feel lovable and loving of herself. In being able to separate the experience of fear, not as truth, but as feeling. That the thing that provokes the fear is the thought, and not to let the thought be the truth either. Merely a thought, merely a feeling. The truth is beyond both of those. This is old news. This is old living. This is some limited perspective that I have lived with, Martha has lived with all her life. But it's time to let go of it because it doesn't serve. So this is where focusing on the feeling and the belief system that underlies it begins to open us to choice, to be able to let go of the thing that is torturing us, really, that is not even rooted in the truth. Because we know what the truth is. We've learned it. We've learned that the truth is, I am a child of a living God, of the possibilities of nothing but wisdom and compassion and love, that the Buddha consciousness, that the Christ consciousness resides within me, that spark of divinity is here, that I can access that I can allow myself to express love. I know this about me, but how often do I actually experience it? Call it forth, use it. Because I'm so tortured by all the inadequacy and the unworthiness and by all the thoughts I hold from patterns and habitual thinking that are thoughts, not truth, that cause feelings, not the experience of the truth, but feelings attached to thoughts. And soon as we can open ourselves and see ourselves larger than that, the expansive awareness that we practiced in the meditation allows us to see that with the sounds around us, with the music playing, with you watching the fear come and go, when you watch your breath come and go, you realize that the field of your awareness is greater than all of the things going on around you. You are not any of those things. They are all happening through you, but you yourself, much greater than that. And the space in which you reside is limitless and is greater than however much fear we feel, however much pain we may be experiencing. Tara Brach says, in facing intense fear, we need to be reminded that we are part of something larger than our own frightened self. In the safe haven of belonging to others, we can begin to discover the sanctuary of peace that dwells within our own being. Thich Nhat Hanh says, every time your fear is invited up, every time you recognize it and smile at it, your fear will lose some of its strength. When you are no longer afraid of your fear, or feeling fear, or having fear, that it doesn't mean what it used to mean to you. You take the meaning of why you even have fear away. You begin to see it's not that scary. It doesn't have impact. It has the power for your focus and for your giving to yourself to change how it is that you feel about yourself. There's another practice called taking refuge that Tara Brach teaches in this particular chapter. It's a Buddhist tradition. And she says in the Buddhist tradition, there are 3 statements that they practice and that they recite 3 times. I'm going to invite you to repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. Taking refuge in the Buddha is the Buddha consciousness. We call it Christ consciousness. We call it that divine consciousness in us. Taking refuge in that consciousness. In Dharma, Dharma is the practice or the truth. Dharma is actually in Sanskrit means truth. And the Dharma is the practice of practicing the truth. In our case, we use our principles, our unity principles to practice truth. We use our mind. We use positive affirmations. We open ourselves to taking away power from states that are not true about us, and we apply power with power statements. We also open ourselves to understanding that love is the freedom, love is the connection, it is with magnifying power. And so these are practices of reminding us of who we are and what we're here for. That is Dharma. We can take refuge in Dharma, in practice, in the truth, what we know to be true about our own innocence, our own divinity within us, in the Christ consciousness within us. And refuge in the Sangha is recognizing that I am in the company of others who are practicing these principles. I take refuge in coming to a service on a Wednesday night, for watching it, for participating in some of the prayer opportunities that we have, in the teachings, in the classes that we have. I am learning from people who are practicing what I am also trying to learn and practice. I am also reaching out to those who are modeling in their lives a lifestyle, a freedom, a peacefulness, a wisdom, a compassion that I wish to put in my life as well. That's what the beauty of taking refuge in the Sangha is. In taking refuge in the Buddha, you can think of it as we do as a historical, you can think of the Christ, of Jesus, the historical man who awakened to his own divinity as the Son of God. Taking refuge in the truth of the awakening, the fact that Jesus awakened to his own awareness of his sonship in that way is the same way that we recognize we can wake up. So we can take refuge in knowing that waking up and becoming more enlightened is actually possible for us because others have done it. The Buddha has awakened. There's also the Buddha consciousness or the Christ consciousness, as I said, that is within us, or reaching out to a spiritual being that we feel very close to and aligned with. The Divine Mother might be an image, or Christ image within me, or the Christhood. Taking refuge in the living spirit of the Buddha's awakened heart and mind is one way. I take refuge in the beloved, knowing that I am loved. I am loved with an everlasting love. No matter what I do, I am loved. And if I can experience that compassion and that feeling, that boundlessness of compassion, then I can take refuge in knowing that I am safe in that when I'm feeling scared or not enough or inadequate or in pain. Letting go into a refuge that is vast enough to hold my fear with love. Tara Brach says, we so easily believe limiting stories about ourselves and forget that our very nature, our Christ nature, is aware and loving. We're taking refuge in the truth of who we are. It's already here. We teach that. We speak that. We remember it. and then we live it. Taking refuge in the Dharma means the truth, the way of things, the law of nature. Dharma is also recognizing we live in a universe that is ordered, that there is a rightness, that there are laws that govern the spiritual nature of how things are, how the world really works. That's one of my greatest draws into unity, was that I found that this is the way the world really works. Not what I was taught, not what was demonstrated to me, not the rules that sometimes I was taught that seemed like they applied in this case, but they didn't apply in that case. I don't know. It just felt like the rules shifted depending on who was wielding them or what it was applied to. But the law is the law of the universe that brings order into everything. This is Dharma. We can fall back into remembering this is the true nature of everything. And so sometimes when we really need to feel safe, when we can't find it in our practice, perhaps in our prayer time, instead it may be better to just walk outdoors, go out into nature. When you walk out into nature, you walk outside the door, things are already happening out there. Have you noticed that? There are birds flying. There's busyness happening. There's order. The clouds are moving predictably across the sky. There is sometimes a visible moon in the daytime. Sometimes there's a breeze that is fluttering the leaves, and you can feel the flow and the sway in the air around you. And the butterflies that fly past you, they're busy already. They're not waiting on you. They're not surrounding you. It's not about you. You, on the other hand, belong in this order, finding your place in what is already going on out here. You are a part of this nature, a part of the order of things. And it is bigger than you and all the thoughts you hold and all the little problems that you have in your head that can be set aside, that have an answer, and you'll figure it out. But for right now, allow yourself to just be in your right place in the universe. That's taking refuge in Dharma. Taking refuge in the Sangha of other people. Befriending and being with those who follow the spiritual teachings that we practice. We know that others before us have broken the painful patterns of fear in their life. Doesn't mean they don't feel it, doesn't mean it doesn't come up, but less and less of the time do they feel fear. More and more of the time do they feel love and freedom and spontaneity and laughter. Reverend Shirley was talking about laughter and setting up, and that when we are undefended, when we are able to be spontaneous, when it's okay that we make mistakes, we just fix it. We just stop doing the wrong thing and start trying to do the right thing, right? That's really how easy life is really meant to be, to make change and to do things with the freedom and the innocence of children. When we observe that in others, our faith that we too can awaken deepens. When we see others practicing it, we remember it's possible that I could be doing that too. When we work with a therapist or a healer, we're embracing Sangha. Someone who's trained and demonstrates the wisdom and compassion we want for ourselves. We allow ourselves to be ministered to. We receive, and then we are enabled to be able to turn and share that love and that loving kindness with others ourselves. Tara Brock counseled a mother who, since 9/11, feared leaving her 6-year-old daughter behind whenever she traveled because of the shock of the fall of the World Trade Center. She was fearing that one of them would be killed. Ever since that happened, she said, it's easy to imagine that I alone feel this way. And the fear feels bigger and truer when we believe we are unique in the condition, doesn't it? Somehow, if we think it's our deal, this is the thing, we forget that we are not alone in this. And so in her practice, what Tara Brach supported this mother in doing is using the fear that she felt for herself and for her daughter, because she couldn't break it without, the fear was just coming up spontaneously in her life. And so in order to break this trance of fear, she practiced, her point of practice in her meditation was to be able to open up to joining other mothers around the world with the mothers with children for whom they feared for their safety. Tara Brach says, by taking refuge in the Sangha of mothers who so love their children, her client was able to awaken what the Taoists call the invincible shield of caring, the safety of abiding in the heart. She soon realized that she was not alone. She soon realized that she too shared a fear among other mothers, and the fear that she felt lessened. Isn't that interesting? Counterintuitive, not what our brains would have told us, but rather the truth of it dissolves into something greater than ourselves. And then we realize that it's manageable, that it's part of the risk of living, isn't it? If we live and we love, we can lose. That is true. But life is so much more than that fear or that reality hanging over us. That joy is also a part of living and loving. Emmanuel Tenney says, there are no guarantees. From the viewpoint of fear, none are strong enough. From the viewpoint of love, none are necessary. When we're in fear, we're so focused on this one terrible catastrophe or the possibility that we cannot shake it. But when we embrace love, love needs no guarantees. Love is greater than whatever happens. Love is going to be okay. Reminds us that we're going to be okay. Tara Brach says, the Buddha taught that our fear is great, but greater still is the truth of our connectedness. So it is the refuge that we can take in one another and in the network of people that we can share our fears with, that we can talk out what is going on with us, that we can reduce and release some of the contained point of agitation and fear, contraction, so that we can open ourselves to remembering that we can live a different life, that we don't have to live like this anymore. The Buddha taught that our fear is great, but greater still is the truth of our connectedness. So the true gift of fear is the practice of using it for insight into freedom. Tara Brach says, if we're waiting only for our fear to end, we will not discover the pure and loving presence that unfolds as we surrender into the darkest of nights. Only by letting go into the stream of life and loss and death do we come into this freedom. In this radiant and changeless awareness, we can, as Rainier Maria Rilke puts it, contain death, the whole of death, can hold it in one's heart gentle and not refuse to go on living. Even in the face of death, not refuse to go on living. I can see it, it's true, it's here, and it's not consuming me. It is not greater than the life that calls me into freedom. And my favorite quote from one of my very favorite Sufi poets, Hafiz. He says, "Fear is the cheapest room in the house. I would like to see you living in better conditions." And so would I. Namaste.
Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.